We started. We live?
We're live.
We live. What's up? Hey. We the best, everybody. We the best podcast.
We're the best music.
We the best. We here at James' humble abode.
Yeah, today's episode number 2 of Uncomposed. Sorry for the confusion. We changed it from Brunswick. Mainly because this was going to be more intimate. James refused to put pants on.
James is nude from the bottom down. Full disclosure.
It's in my knees.
So it's just going to be a nice conversation with the music master himself.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on board.
Sweet. Yeah, that's cool. You can just keep checking your phone, man.
I'm trying to find.
Here we are live podcasting. James still on his phone.
Let me.
It's like how all our relationships start, by the way, guys.
The sound garden. The sound. Here we go.
Are you gonna watch us podcasting?
I want to. Yeah.
That's extremely meta, bro.
There it is. Check it out, man.
Oh, we're here.
We're out here.
Now this is a podcast of a podcast.
There's one person watching, and that is James.
Good times.
All right, so I'm going to share this now on my wall.
And now we're going to have 9,000 people.
Yeah.
Look, I don't think their servers can deal with it, to be honest.
We on the air.
We live.
We live out here.
Yeah, just say we live out here.
We out here.
That's the way to move.
Okay.
We live out here.
Let's have a look. It all seems to be working fine. So, fellas.
What's happening?
Yep, it's all happening.
It's
It's working.
Here.
It's on my wall now.
That's the podcast. We're live. There's no second takes.
Yes, we can't talk about
everything we usually talk about.
Yeah.
On this.
So James, we've been working together now for 4 months.
19 years.
Some would say. But we don't know anything about you before Dubai.
Yeah, we need to know James' origin story. How did he come to be?
The full disclaimer, all we talk to James about is an Australian accent. He's a Greek god. That's it.
We sometimes go paddleboarding.
Yeah, we go paddleboarding. Still no history has been shared.
No, we don't know. He's basically a Greek mythology at this point. Up there with
an Aussie accent.
With what are those ones?
What?
Like the guy with the spear.
Poseidon.
Yeah.
That's me and the paddleboard.
That's you and the paddleboard.
Well, I came here in 2011.
No, take us further back.
Okay.
Start with the Big Bang. What do you think about it?
Well, the whole James Locksmith story has been since I think 1999, 2000. It's kind of like when I started to just shape into more of a professional music career. I'd been DJing since I was 16, but that stopped after a few years, and then I started again.
What kind of
maybe
DJ?
10 years later.
What kind of DJ gigs were you doing at 16?
My first DJ gig was for a guy who, because I was fascinated, obviously, like a lot of young kids at that age, by pop culture and stuff, and I was into a lot of hip hop, and I came across that whole sampling stuff when I was around 14. And I was intrigued by that whole concept of sampling and the culture of hip hop.
Right.
So hip hop was pretty much like the essence of it all, really. And then realizing that whole had a lot to do with dance music in general. So, but at 16, at this stage now, I had a collection. I had been collecting music already, but I also had. I was very fortunate that my mother had a really cool record collection. Wasn't huge, but there was some really tasty records
There's
in
some
there.
gems in there.
Yeah. And so
what was she listening to?
Well, at 14, I found Parliament George Clinton in her record collection.
Yeah.
And at this point already, I had already listened to. I'd come across Digital Underground.
Oh man, Tupac.
Rest
in peace.
So the Sex Packets album came out in 1989, and I found it in 1990. Like I came across that album, and I bought it from Miranda Westfield's from a record store. There was a chain of record store called Brash's at the time, and they had stocked this album, which is crazy at the time. And I found it at Miranda Westfield's.
Miranda Westfield.
Yeah, so Westfields were a chain of like malls. And
we had Westfield malls too. Yeah.
They still have them in the UK.
I didn't know it was named after a person. Miranda.
Well, Miranda is a suburb in the southern Shire. It's called the Southern Shire of Sydney. Of Sydney. And there's like not far from there was some beaches, the Cronulla, and so I didn't live far from there. So it was kind of like the kind of neighborhood
mall.
Kind of. It wasn't like it was probably maybe a 15-minute drive from where I lived, but I would venture that I'd be in that area. All around that area was my sort of local anyway. So, anyways, I found
Digital Underground.
Digital Underground.
And that was like the first rap record.
No. My first rap record was Tougher Than Leather by Run DMC in '88. But I had like compilations and stuff before. I think my first I had an album that was like a hits of '83 or '82 or something like that, and then in '87, '86. I bought Slippery When Wet by Bon Jovi.
Good old Bon Jovi, man.
And then
he hasn't aged a day.
Yeah. And then it's in '88 Run DMC, and then hip hop was huge for me. Like I guess and DJing and hip hop was a big thing because it was, I guess, a way that I was able to express myself and a way that I dealt with my insecurities or
So you like felt part of a larger whole.
Yeah, I guess I picked up the saxophone and put that down after 6 weeks and started DJing instead.
How was like hip hop in Australia in the late '80s? Because it was just getting big in the States too, like to a mainstream appeal.
Yeah, look, at the time I was fascinated. Like I would spend my weekends sitting in front of the TV at that age, watching, because we used to have this TV. I think it's still airing now. It's called Rage, and it was like hours of non-stop music, and it would start at like 11 or 12 p.m. and it'll go to 6 in the morning, and I would sit there every night with my tape VHS and just record video clips, and I used to do that during the week as well. There was certain radio shows that I would listen to late at night.
Local shows?
Local radio shows with my tape deck, and I would record tracks and just make my own cassette tapes recording from radio shows. And I was, this is like 11, 12, 13 years of age. I was a bit of a geek then. Like, look, I wouldn't go, I wasn't really athletic. I didn't really like going out, and I was playing soccer and stuff or whatever, but music was the thing that made me feel good, and I connected with it, and I was able to make my own mixtapes from these radio shows, and
tape them and splice them together.
Yeah, I used to sit there and make my own mixtapes, and then I would
James the first fire mixtape in Australia at the time.
Do you think you still have them somewhere?
I do. I still got some of those tapes.
Where are they?
They're in Sydney.
Yeah?
They're in Sydney, yeah.
Are you ever gonna bring them back? Showcase.
I actually there's a tape somewhere where I did a radio show, made my own radio show while I was in Greece with those tapes. So I grabbed those tapes and I would like talk between the tracks and then play the tracks and then made my own radio show.
How old were you at this time?
That would have been when I did that. I did that when I was about 16.
Right.
I was ambitious.
Yeah.
I was 16-year-old.
And then I used to. I remember playing around with the records that I had, and I would speed them up. Like I'd find certain breaks in track, like on vinyl, and I would like speed them up, and grab those breaks,
Right.
and make them faster by speeding the tempo up on the vinyl,
Right.
and then stop play, and then keep on looping that break.
It's like the stop motion animation of music producing.
Yeah. So I would have like a whole chunk of this big long break, right? So obviously with the stop and pause, like, but it's still,
Still
try to
serves
create
purpose.
and then I would rap over it.
Yeah.
And then
No way.
and record.
Do you
as well.
have
Like
those?
you would rap over it?
Yeah.
Do you have
Holy
those?
shit.
We need to get a hold of those.
The James Locksmith fire tapes.
The unreleased fire tapes. That's sick. Like, what are the like which breaks did you use? Do you remember like the songs?
There was one that it was kind of bizarre. I found it off a Soul to Soul's second album.
Right.
I remember hearing this beat that it was a jazzy B break that he used, and then I just I made it faster off that.
Yeah.
But there was also there was funk stuff. Back at the time, back in like '96, my parents they did a lot of traveling, and like I did as well with them, but they would go away during our winters, the Southern Hemisphere winter, so it was European summer.
Right.
And then I would have all these like crazy parties.
Did they know about them?
Yeah, like
Mom, Dad, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Oh, they know about them now.
Yes.
25 years on, guys, I told you.
It was actually, sorry, not 96, it was way younger than that. We're talking 93.
Damn.
92, 93.
Right.
My folks would go away. There was a couple of our winters where I would have, and I would stay at my auntie's and my cousin's place around the corner, but I would have the key to the house on the weekend, and have all these girls and guys sleeping. There'd be bodies all over my lounge room floor, and I had music then, and I would play the music. Like that was my thing. And
You were the music guy.
In my own house. Come over to James's.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play tunes.
It's like the best way to get girls when you're
Yeah.
18 years old. Or whatever.
Did you ever use that to get girls, actually?
I feel like that's the only reason you did it.
No. I had my own other techniques with the kids.
Please elaborate, guys. Please take notes. It's a very important part.
No, but yeah, there was always these crazy parties and like sleepovers and.
It's a very nice way to put like orgies.
What? But I had friends come over and they would like. The funny thing is that parents would end up coming over to my house.
To party?
No, looking for their kids.
Yeah.
Where are your parents?
It's like it's Friday night. Everybody's missing.
Yeah. Where are your parents? There was one time where these two girls. I won't mention their names now, but these two girls were my best friends at the time, and still are. I mean, I love them dearly. And I was caught up with one of them recently when I was in Sydney, and they they were wild girls. They would, in the sense that they would they'll get up to a lot of mischief and
Like the life of the party.
No.
What kind of mischief are we talking
run
about?
away from home, and they'll like
do all that stuff.
Yeah. And so they'd run away from home and come and hide at my house when my parents were away. Because like was an empty house.
Right.
And one day, one of the mothers was coming, and they hid in my cupboard. You know, and the mother was walking through my house. Where am I going? Where are the daughters? You know.
And you're not snitching on
Yeah,
them.
no, I'm like, I don't know where they are.
Yeah, what is he gonna say? Yeah, they're both in my closet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look good. Yeah.
So yeah, that happened.
So that's really your first DJing parties.
Well,
was
those
your own house parties.
they were my parties. But then at 16, there was a guy that I went to school with who was a real big sound system guy. Like
Right.
he was so into building sound systems for cars. They were crazy. Like he'd pull out the back seats of cars and it would just be full of subs.
Right.
And you couldn't sit in the back of the car. You could only 2 passengers only, and the rest of the car wall to wall speakers inside the car.
That was huge in the Bay Area
Yeah,
as well.
right.
Like, just
Yeah,
sort of
this
woofer it out.
sounds like Philadelphia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, I mean, at the time, the ethnic community, like the Greeks, the Italians, the Lebanese, we were like the equivalent of the African Americans in the States.
How big was that
like,
that international community at that time in
It
Australia?
was very big. I mean, the migrants were Greeks, Italians had been migrating to Australia from the 50s and 60s. So we were the second or first generation, some of us. You know, like my parents were, I was actually first generation Australian. My parents were born in Greece.
And then when did they move over?
They moved over when they were very young. So they could have been second generation almost because Mum was 2 years old, my dad was 5. So they've been very Aussified. You know, They have strong Aussie accents.
Do they?
Yeah.
I was really hoping for like Greek accent. From the
But funny enough, the Greeks that came over and that had the Greek accent that merged. That's the funny one, like the one that merged with the Aussie accent.
Do you have like an example?
Yeah, I've got uncles and aunties that
like
have,
can you do
Yeah,
an example?
demonstrate?
Can you demonstrate the Greek Aussie accent?
I've been away so. What can I say? It's like, I mean, it could be anything really. Like it's when I said it could be anything, I mean, what I would say in English with the Greek. In the Greek sort of thing, you could be in America. I don't know.
You're dancing around the question. Rub some feta on that kangaroo, Joey, or whatever. Whatever.
Nothing like that. No, nothing like that. No.
Give the kangaroo a feta bath again. I can't say it in that accent though.
All right, so
anyway, we'll move on from this.
Yeah, we digress.
Let's carry on from that subject.
So you took 10 years off DJing?
Well, yeah. What happened was, like at 16, this guy, the guy with the big sound system, he asked me to come and DJ. He knew I had been collecting music. He knew that I had a very big passion for music, and he's like, why don't you come and play with me at this girl's birthday party? And it's the girl's 16th birthday, and it was by the pool, and it was a pool party, and I had already at this point of playing at home with my home stereos. I had this like Kenwood amp which was amazing. It already was 10 years old at the time, and it was still kick-ass then.
Right.
It was like this silver box that was just amazing.
They made it durable back then.
Oh,
yeah.
I think if I still had... Do you know what? I might even still have it somewhere. I think... no, I donated it to a charity. But it was working. It was still working.
Still
like,
alive.
It was like incredible piece of equipment. Anyway, so this amp... like I got 20 years out of it after my parents had already had like 10, 15 years from the early 80s and 70s maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I would have set up my sound system at home. We live across this park.
Right.
So I would play music to the
Blast.
whole park. I'm playing music to the neighborhood. Here's the next one, and then
This is like Queens and like the Get Down.
but yeah,
This is really what it seems like.
suburban like Sydney.
Yeah.
I was doing that and the thing is, across at the park, the guys would be playing soccer and girls playing netball, and I would play music across to the park.
So they would
from my balcony.
really enjoy that.
Yeah, from my balcony. So, and I remember I remember, I remember playing Jamiroquai for the first time.
Yeah.
Too Young to Die, and everybody thought, like, yeah. Everyone's like, "What is this shit, man?" It's
Man,
like,
that's a great song.
Yeah.
Ahead of your time, James.
Yeah, you're always ahead of your time. James.
And I was like, "No, this is the shit. This is the shit. This is gonna blow up, man. It's gonna blow up."
Man, Jamiroquai was sick though.
Yeah.
How old?
That was like 91 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've also been active late 80s, though.
Yeah, well, no, that was their first album.
That was their first
album.
album.
And then they got famous in the States during that. What was that, when he's like dancing and the couch was moving?
Yeah, that was the same album. That was...
Was that the same album?
Yeah, that was the same album, and he's bouncing across the room.
Yeah.
I think that's the same album, Emergency on Planet Earth.
Yeah.
So you're playing that record.
So I was, and at the time, I used to hang out with a lot of hood rats, like a lot of like gangster kids.
The riff-raff.
Yeah, like guys that would hang off the side of trains and, and tag. And
Yeah.
So that
the hip hop community.
Yeah, hip hop kids.
Yeah.
We would be on the trains, and we would busk and walk up along and rap and sing along the trains, and then dance and. Pull out our hats
like a b-boy crew.
Yeah, collect. There was guys and girls, and we used to hang out in malls and just get up to mischief.
Yeah.
Some Beastie Boys of Sydney.
Yeah, the Beastie Boys
the Beastie
type
Boys
stuff.
of Sydney.
Yeah.
So.
So that was it. You were like, that was like the culture that you were living back in those days.
And you know, I mean, I grew up with next door to an African family, and they were like kick-ass dancers. They're two brothers, and there's also a very strong Polynesian and Maori community in Australia, and who at the time, and the Aboriginal community as well, were all very much like, you know, the hip hop community as well.
Right.
Like that was.
It was just taking the
They were
kids,
all in it.
It was taking the kids by storm.
Yeah.
At that time, right? Like
I mean, it still is. To be honest.
It still is, just in a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was kind of like I was always this sort of guy who had. I was connected with the European communities and the islanders.
Right.
And
You were the music guy, so you were like valuable to people. You know.
Or maybe you were like in between these two separate cultures.
Yeah,
almost.
I was, and I kind of, although they were, you know, and then there was the whole New Jack Swing era and early 90s R&B and hip hop. I mean, I was big on all the Def Jam artists at the time. You know, Public Enemy, LL Cool J.
That was like the epitome of Def Jam. That really was like a high point of Def Jam.
Def Jam.
So, anyway, so 16, first DJ party, and then I loved it. I was so...
You were hooked.
This is what I want to do forever. Yeah. And so after that, everyone in high school and even below me, up maybe 3 to about 3 to 4 years under, about 3 years under me,
right,
from my year and my year and 2 years above, were asking me to DJ their parties. Like, so I had this whole range of different age groups asking me to play at their parties. And my cousin Phil, we used to play together as well. You know, it was our thing. You know, we just like, never got paid for it or anything like that. And then I met these boys, other dudes who were into techno and house at the time, and breaks.
How was that? Did that like clash with your hip hop identity?
No. Well, these guys were into hip hop as well, but they showed me this other world of hip hop. I mean, I was into De La Soul, which was quite groundbreaking at the time, and the whole Daisy Age stuff. And I mean, I bought the Low End Theory. My mum bought it for me for my birthday.
Damn,
it's a cool mom.
Yeah, and,
seriously.
That changed my life, that album. And then, so it opened me up to this whole new conscious hip hop. Right. And then when I met these other dudes, they were DJs that collected vinyl, right? This is kind of now 16, 17, 18. And they used to have these parties like in their garages, and people would come over. They had the turntables, and I got exposed to more electronic.
Right.
But with the hip hop culture, I heard it, that's when I came across the Far Side.
Yeah, man, I love the Far Side.
And then so that's when I started getting involved, like into sort of techno and techno breaks, like electro breaks and disco and funk.
So
and
you were really open minded from the start about music, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, in my house, I would hear everything from Alcibisa to Temptations to Santana to Parliament, and then because I was listening to so much hip hop, I could hear the samples.
Of course,
from my mum's records.
Okay, yeah.
And
So I've heard that somewhere.
Oh my god, and then I was like, I love this, and
See, like the cause and effect.
Yeah. So after that, when with these guys, we started doing these parties, and we first did we did these first parties when I was like 17, 18. We were like, because the legal age is 18 in Australia, so we were
still.
Yeah. We were doing parties at pubs, and get people to come, and I was doing that for a while until maybe I was about 20, and then I was trying to get into it, find a career, and I was obsessed to get into advertising and marketing, and I don't know, I just had this in my head.
Why? Where did that come from?
I don't know, it just sounded cool, it's like, and
wearing a suit and glasses.
Yeah, get into copywriting. I wanted to be in the creative, I thought that's, and so I started doing temp jobs in that area, and then I wanted to get into promo, and somehow led me into finance, and for a short while I was actually working in finance.
That's great.
When was this?
Investment banking James.
Yeah, I was doing mortgages. I was doing home loans.
Jeez.
Yeah, for about 2-3 years. It was the most depressing part of my life. No disrespect to anyone who's in that field, but it just wasn't for me, right?
But that's around the time when you make the decision, man, no matter what happens, I'm just gonna go pursue this art thing. You know what I mean? Because you know what the other side is like.
Well, that's right.
Like,
You've explored it, You can't say, I don't even. You can't. You're judging a book by its cover. No, I did it.
Yeah. It's not.
I'm telling you from experience. Yeah.
So between 20 for a long time, I was even doing odd jobs in advertising. I was working in a couple of agencies, where I was just working in doing odd jobs. In there, trying to break in.
Right.
Junior roles.
Yeah.
And I was doing the same thing I remember I was stuffing envelopes when Tupac died. I was listening to a hip hop radio show, and I was just like, Tupac's dead. I'm like, no, I don't need this. It's like, I was actually more devastated when Tupac died than when Biggie died. I was
too young. I feel like Michael Jackson was that one for me.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm from California, so we like Tupac a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced about that argument.
Well, I did have a big love for East Coast hip hop, but when the whole West Coast thing happened, I was just well into when I remember.
So you took Tupac's side in the East Coast West Coast beef.
No, I'm taking Biggie's side.
I'm
taking Diddy and Biggie's
side. Nobody won that battle.
No,
they both
lost.
Clearly.
Yeah, the East really just came out on top.
The whole G-Funk era was huge for me. I loved G-Funk hip hop. Was early Warren G.
DJ Battle Cat.
Who else?
I love Battle Cat.
What a great name, Battle Cat.
Battle Cat was so good, man.
The whole Domino was huge. The Twins, all these acts that came out then, and they were big in Australia. They crossed over the oceans to Australia.
Did these guys go on tour in Australia?
Yeah,
not
when
at
did
the
the
time.
big Australia
Not at the time.
tour
Like
start?
it was too controversial to bring some of these acts then.
Right.
Or I don't think promoters were willing to risk and take the chance back then.
Right.
Because it was still very underground.
And the whole parental advisory thing was still like
Yeah,
a hot topic.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
NWA.
yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, God, me at 15, 16, I remember sitting in the car and with all my, like with uncles and aunties, and I'm like reciting NWA lyrics and looking at who the fuck is this kid? You know, it's like,
It's so crazy how much that's changed to now. Because I remember when I went to like Tower Records and tried to buy Eminem's first album. I was like, hey, can I buy this? And they're like, no, kid. It's like, it's explicit.
Yeah.
Like,
Bring your parents
that would
along.
never happen this day.
Well,
and age.
what's your block now for kids buying music? You have a Spotify subscription. You have it on the hobby, whatever you have.
You can do anything
Carry
you
on.
want. Yeah.
Even your iTunes, even if it has the explicit like sign on it, symbol on it.
Yeah, I just
Doesn't
wonder,
matter.
man, I wonder if like I would have seen some stuff I was not ready to see. If I had the
I don't know
unrestricted internet at like 8 years old.
we got away with it though in Australia. I mean, I remember I was like, cause I was so obsessed with wanting to watch, like even when the hip hop movement was happening, the films started coming. Like the rappers were making movies then, right? So you had Kid and Play's House Party.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I was just like, gotta see this movie. I remember grabbing all my cousins and friends. We went and watched it. When New Jack Swing
Superfly,
came out, no, sorry, New Jack City. I was in Hawaii at the time, and I got in. They let me in to see it. It was an over 21 film, but in Hawaii they let me.
Didn't care.
They actually asked me to get a permission slip from my parents, and my mum and dad signed it. And they let me in. I watched it.
Crazy,
I was 14 years old.
Time, yeah.
And I watched New Jack City because I was just like, this is
me.
Yeah, I had to watch it. It was all part of my culture that I wanted. I was the baggy pants, the hat, everything.
Man, James, we have to unearth some of these pictures.
And
the mixtape.
And mixtapes, man.
Holy
we have to
shit.
supplement this podcast with some of your like old mixtapes.
For sure. It's like a treat for everyone who's joined in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, these guys I said before, who I was exposed to the dance music, we started doing stuff together. I was in finance and stuff. So I then became more of a business guy doing the events. I became more of a promoter.
Right.
Like I started doing more promoting.
You're like crunching numbers now, so you're like, okay, I can handle this part.
Yeah,
You fell into
I was
it,
never
right?
really good at math, man. But I was more of the business development guy, the guy with the good talk, and get the parties going and round up the people. I was always wanting just to promote and start doing. So we were so into the house music. House music was huge. House and disco and funk and breaks, and this is now late 90s. And then it wasn't until and then I started my own label in 99, 2000. Was Lateral Recordings.
Lateral Recordings.
Yeah, and it didn't go far. We released like 2 releases, but I was like,
what were they?
Was a guy from Sydney. His name's Mark Walton, and was a fucking brilliant DJ. Like he was just amazing. Like I learned so much from this guy, and the parties that he was involved in, and the clubs and that he went to, and there was a promoter who was doing these. Like I got exposed to what resembled to me of New York.
Right.
Was these sort of gay straight house party. Like there was dance parties. There was small boutiquey, crazy parties that would go till 6, 7 in the morning.
Hole in the wall, crazy.
Yeah,
all
they
night.
first started they were called Lick, L-I-C-K.
Yeah.
And then they became
Great name, actually.
And then it became Wiggle, which was before the Wiggles. But there was a guy who Michael Chernoff and him and there was a record store, Acetate. They were all in Sydney. There was Reaching Records. All these guys, the guys in Sugar Ray, these guys were. Sugar Ray and Phil Smart were UK dudes that came over and brought that UK dance music culture over and brought it into the scene, like amongst many other promoters at the time. Yeah. But I steered more towards this sort of funk and house and stuff, and because it was kind of like what for me kind of evolved more from hip hop.
It was a natural movement.
Yeah.
What was the music playing in the big clubs then in Sydney?
Oh, when is this? 90s, right? Like
late 90s.
Yeah, still late 90s, early 2000s. What was out? Mid actually 96, 97. Was at 98, 99 were all like, wow, for me, real big party years. Like I was a big party boy then. Like I was just going out
everywhere,
just dancing my ass off everywhere and just getting super high. But yeah, it was. But that was how I got to learn about the culture as well.
Just being in it.
Yeah, and I got to meet a lot of people as well, and things. Then I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be more involved in it, and started doing my own parties. And I was working when I started my label. I decided to. He was making his own music. This guy Mark Walton, and it's pretty decent stuff. I've still. The album that he did was fantastic. Like there's some really cool stuff on it, and he was all done on an MPC. Right. He sampled a lot of stuff, and there was some tracks on there that I think still today that you could play them and they could really work a dance floor. Anyway, so it was like a complete DIY operation. I literally got on a plane and flew to Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, delivering vinyl and putting them into the record stores myself. Nice. And I would, and then that lasted for a while. Then I was still, the label thing. I was more. The whole parties and doing shows was more like it just came to me more naturally. Like it just happened. Like it was just so. Even though I was trying to do this label, I was always still doing parties.
You feel like you're going too many directions.
Yeah. And so Lateral Recordings then became like a promotion company, a production company, up until 2005, and then I debunked it. I closed it. Right. But up until then, so in 2002, 2003, 2001 I did my first international gig with a label out of San Francisco, the Dub Tribe Sound System.
Dub Tribe.
And the label owner, Corey Black, who's quite a significant figure in the dance music scene in San Francisco. He's still doing amazing stuff now. We reconnected not long ago, but we had him play at one of the Wiggle parties, with and that was my first international gig. And then come 2002 and 2003, I was doing. I met this Canadian guy, who this guy at this point was running a club in Ottawa, in Canada, called the Mercury Lounge. Right. And he had worked with so many like new jazz and funk artists, like new kind of electronica stuff. Like it was, and that's when it was sort of really sort of changing. It was more.
He was the first on that change. Yeah,
but and he really brought this different kind of vibe to Sydney. The guy could have really done a lot of amazing stuff in Australia because he was onto something. Right. We did 10 shows together in 1 year. I wasn't like heavily involved with him, but I sort of helped him connect the dots with a few people around Australia, and he was very close with a good buddy of mine. And I started to work with him towards the end a bit more closer, but he got into a bit of trouble with people and he ended up fleeing the country. in Australia. But in that 12 months, I was exposed to a lot of like international. I did a show. I did Questlove.
Oh, nice.
That's crazy.
Just before they blew up, the Roots. You know, like the Roots was big still, but they were just blowing up.
You were like opening for them or something?
No. I did a show.
Oh, you like put a show together.
I worked on a show with them, him and another guy.
Nice. Questlove, thanks for joining in.
Yeah,
thanks,
so Questlove and Cut Chemist from Jurassic 5, and we did Giles Peterson. We did
some heavyweight people.
Yeah, Toshio Matsura from UFO out of Japan. Who else was there? The Gladiators, the big reggae band. We did Keb Daj, who was the big Funk 45 king. We did that on a Tuesday night in Sydney, 900 people.
Popping, wasn't it?
That was huge. Like this whole kind of movement was different in Sydney at the time because these kind of bookings were not being done, and it was a shift. And
what did you guys do that was so effective?
Then why?
Yeah. Why? How did that work so well?
I think it was it just because it had this sort of grit edge to it that was kind of I think because it made people feel connected to other parts of the world.
Okay.
Right? Because Australia is so far away. It happens here as well. Like even today in Dubai, people go crazy over international guests.
Yeah, because you feel isolated from.
So it was the same kind of thing, especially back then.
Yeah. It's literally an island.
Keb Daj wouldn't be able to do that kind of audience now. He still get an audience, but not 900 people on a Tuesday night in Sydney. It was the first time he ever came to Australia, and no one was ever really doing stuff like that. So.
But people, there was enough people who knew that.
Yeah, I was going to say you knew you had an audience for it.
Yeah.
Or did you not?
Well, we kind of, it was a thing that just sort of happened. And once we saw that, then there was other promoters that were doing these kind of events. But what was different in this sort of presentation and the way it was done there was like multiple kind of events happening all the time. There was these different shows. They were acts that never been done before, and I guess that's what it was. And so it started to open up this whole doorway to bringing out these acts and then touring them across Australia, New Zealand, and more of this started to happen more and more. And it wasn't, and this is a bit different from the house scene. This was more funk, soul, jazz, new jazz, electronica, and house, but it was this different open format.
Right.
You know, world music, Afrobeat, Latino. Like it was this style of DJing and this style of presentation of shows that were a bit more dynamic in their music. You know, so it was a whole different world. And so this guy and this guy had a company called New Jazz Productions as well, which was the name New Jazz was this whole new movement that was happening at the time. Yeah. And we're talking 10 years later after acid jazz.
Who's like a quintessential new jazz artist?
Then?
Yeah.
Jazzanova.
Jazzanova
were huge. The UFO, Kyoto Jazz Massive, Four Hero, where Sia did her vocals for before she became Sia.
That's crazy.
And
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah,
it's like new information for me.
Yeah, and then you had who else was?
So Sia, so you could say Sia was
a new jazz
artist.
She was I was gonna say a new jazz pioneer.
Yeah, and she was from Australia. She was Australian.
She's Australian?
She's Australian. She's from Adelaide. She's an Adelaide girl, man. Like,
for those of you out there watching, I don't know anything about Sia at all. So I'm learning a lot right now about Sia and James. So Sia's Australian, and she's a new jazz pioneer.
I can't remember who from AC/DC is also Australian. I think it's Angus Young or
the whole lot of them Australian.
No, one of them's from Scotland.
Yeah, the new singer Bon Scott.
New singer. Man, for someone who knows AC/DC, I don't know much about them personally. But so what about that? Like in the 90s, it's like a high grunge. Like where was that
The grunge era?
Where was that? Where was that in your like musical diet?
The grunge, as in like Pearl Jam and...
Yeah, because that was that era. Because
it was there, but I was never into it. I was never like I appreciated stuff like if I was into any rock, it was more rock funk, like Living Colour. I love Living Colour. I liked Fishbone.
Okay. Fishbone.
Yeah, Fishbone. The Chili Peppers I liked.
But you weren't DJing this stuff.
No.
But like you still consuming that music,
I would again, like when I would listen to that, watch those video clips.
Yeah.
That music was there in it as well, and I did like it because the funk was there. You know, the funk and the hip hop was in that. Like it had that. You know,
especially their early records.
Yeah.
How it's early. I can't remember. It was one red cover. It's with Walkabout. That's on that record.
Who?
That's a super funky record.
Walkabout.
Yeah. That's like that. There was a lot of funk in Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm just wondering, like where your music kind of openness comes from, and like what did you not listen to as much as the other stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wasn't.
What did you choose to say maybe not?
Early. I mean, there was also early Lenny Kravitz, Prince. He was, Jimi Hendrix. But these were things that I grew up on. But I didn't. Yeah, no. I wasn't into. Definitely not into. There was a very big, sort of, dance scene.
Right.
In Sydney, that I wasn't into. There was a dance. I was more into this underground.
What
kind of dance?
What are you talking about here?
Like what was the mainstream back then?
Well,
especially in Australia,
there was a particular style of dance music that was happening at the time that was big in certain clubs. It was like Euro dance at the time.
Right.
Like it was huge.
Yeah,
and you could call it almost at the time.
Derp house.
Well,
it's derp,
kind
derp,
of.
Euro derp.
I mean, Derp House now is actually more easier on the ears. This was the equivalent of like really bad EDM.
This is early stages of EDM.
Yeah, but with vocals. It was kind of like.
I remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but I can't name a single thing.
Yeah, there was a track called. I remember hearing it at all these like day clubs where people hadn't slept for 2 days, and you'd go there. There's a song called "On the Bible." On the Bible, and like it was just like really bad dance music.
We'll overlay the song in post production.
Yeah. If you guys know any of the old school dance music, feel free to link it.
Yeah,
So that's interesting. So you've always been like anti-derp EDM music,
Yeah, I guess
and
so.
like pro underground alternative
Yeah,
music.
always. I was always into alternative dance music, alternative culture. Like, my music experiences has always been with independent music, like in the dance music world. So after I closed the label, I was very fortunate. A friend of mine got me a job with at one of Australia's biggest record distributors called Creative Vibes. And they did some amazing work for many years prior to I got there. I was in their last years before. This is just when the whole digital thing started to come over. So physical releases
2006
were beginning to start suffering. Right when I started working.
You got there.
Prime time.
You got Facebook just started.
You got on the ship when it was sinking already.
Yeah, and everything started going digital. Right, so. But it was also, I was very lucky to still get a taste of that, because for about 2 years I was managing like 40, 50 labels.
Right.
I'd get piles and piles of releases of music on my desk every week, and I was promoting them around the country, putting them into radio stations, putting them into journalists' hands, trying to get exposure for these releases. I would go to national radio stations and trying to put this on the air.
You can't do that anymore.
No.
You can't. Hey, man, plug in my phone. Play this one.
So yeah, I was fortunate to experience that, and I was fortunate that I was able to work with some of my favorite labels as well, and artists.
Right.
I met a lot of amazing people in that period, and I started getting into radio myself at that time. And
Did you ever do anything in radio?
yeah. I was doing a lot of guest shows. Like people would get me in to come onto their shows. Hey, what are you up, James? What are you doing? What's in your world at the moment? You know, come in, and I would come in with all the stuff that I had, what was going on. This just came out, and I started, and then that's when, I mean, I'd already started DJing again now. Like I was started to DJ again. It wasn't 10 years. Like I started DJing in 2001. That's when and it's been since, I stopped DJing around, 94. So it was almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right? So 96, I stopped. 95, I wasn't DJing in 95, 96, stopped DJing.
So about 8 years.
When Pac died, you gave it up. I can't do it anymore.
So honestly, what's the point?
What's the point?
So I was doing the parties, getting more involved in promotion, promoting artists, and got into the record labels, doing that, and then got into radio, and then I started doing some volunteer work for a station called FBI Radio in Sydney, which is still probably my favourite radio station on earth. It's just everything about what they do. About the way they break artists. Some of the biggest names were broken, like Flume. Flume got played on this station
I forgot
first.
Flume is Australian. Yeah.
Flume, I remember when I was there at the time, when Flume entered a track in for a competition.
That's crazy.
And it I'm like, this shit's incredible. I was like, wow. And then Future Classic picked him up, I think early days. And then, but his music changed after that. It became a bit more mainstream accessible. Yeah. But still amazing production. Still amazing stuff.
But the sound at the time was very brand new.
And his, I think I might even have it on my hard drive somewhere, the track that he did at the time. And it was a killer tune.
We can give it back to you. Just a cool $2 million. That's the price for the original tracks, the masters of your first track.
No. What's the masters? So
offers on the table, Flume. Balls in your court. Anyways.
There was acts like Cut Copy, the presets. They were all even Empire of the Sun.
Oh, nice.
You know, they all got broken on this station first, and then they'd get onto Triple J, which was the national station. But FBI Radio, I don't know how their listenership is still now, but it's still quite substantial. But they had a bigger
the gatekeeper.
Well, they had a bigger listenership than Triple J is our biggest national radio, and it has changed to what they used to be like. Now they've gone back to what they had before, which was Double J, which is a bit more eclectic, not so mainstream sort of stuff, but Triple J was where you would break internationally on the alternative side. Unfortunately we needed more Triple J's.
You need more than just one.
So there was always unfortunately if you couldn't get onto Triple J, you didn't really have much of a luck of trying to get international national reach. Unless you made a commercial track and went on commercial radio.
Fair.
So if you're doing independent music, Triple J was
or nothing.
Yeah, well that's it, and it was very hard to get on there, It was like,
What did FBI do so well?
Music. Sorry?
What did FBI do so well? Because Triple J, it seems like, all right, cool, you need to get there. That's the big boss.
Well, FBI still, I think they still have the same policy. There was 50% international music and 50%
local
music from Sydney.
From Sydney. From a city, so from not even Sydney. From...
50% Australian, 50% Australian, and then 25% Sydney. I think that was the format. Like you had to be or the other way. I can't. Yeah.
So it's 50% international, 50% Sydney, 25% Australia.
25% New Zealand.
I can't do math. I just everyone on the podcast knows that I don't know how to count to 100 now. That's so. What do you?
But that was one of their things that they did. They were very still are about pushing new music. I still go and listen to them occasionally
Just to get new music.
Because the distributors in Sydney that have all the new groundbreaking artists still send their music to this station. So if you want to hear what the latest music is, you tune into FBI because you're going to hear international stuff from around the world, like it's there. Yeah. Like, but like depending the specialist shows anyway were a bit more deeper, and you'd find again for more electronic. So I got involved doing shows for them.
Right.
Like I was doing specialist shows and being a guest on there, and I was doing it late at night. So I was doing graveyard shifts.
Right.
I'd be
3 a.m.
2 till 6 in the morning till the breakfast show would start.
Right.
So I would be doing late night, and that's how I was terrible at radio. I was so I was really bad at it. Like
This it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a new one.
It's a new one from I forget the name, but you'll like it.
Really smudge the label here and there. Oh, I'm sweating on it.
So, but I got better and better over time, and I started doing a dance music show with a buddy of mine. It was a time slot on Saturday nights from I think 10 till 12. It was a 2-hour window block. So it was on Saturday nights, and people driving around Sydney, going out clubbing. It was called the discotheque. So it was all house music. Yeah. And when I'd be on this show at least twice a month with a guy called Michael, and he was a bit more soulful house.
Yeah.
I was just a bit everything kind of dance music, techno house, disco, whatever, and but he was a bit more specific with the soulful house and Afro house sort of stuff, and it worked well. We did it. We had fun, the two of us, all the time. We did it for about 2 years together. And I stopped working at the distributor, Creative Vibes.
Why?
Well, I mean, at the time, it came to a point where it was time to let me go. No, look, it was a mutual thing. I was really still focused on doing my own thing, you know.
But how were they handling like the move to digital?
But that not well. So it was also a business decision for them to sort of downsize.
Just so playing, it is. It's just like a thing.
They needed to downsize. So.
What was your move after this?
Well, I had a year freelancing, but still working at FBI, and then a job opened up at FBI.
Okay.
And then I started to work for FBI for about 4 years after that.
Oh damn.
And I was working in sponsorship and handling all the music and art on the radio.
Nice.
Like I was looking after the events, parties, promoting their. Like I would handle their campaigns.
Yeah.
Their campaigns.
So you saw like a lot of artists come through.
Yeah, that's where I met Dame Funk there. I met a lot of artists because they'd come into the station to do interviews and stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So promoters that were touring acts, and I was promoting their shows for them. I would meet them. I got a lot of tickets. I went to so many concerts and shows.
That's amazing.
That's a good life. That's why we're in. That's why we're in this game.
Yeah, it seems like an ideal scenario.
It was fantastic. I mean, I can't complain. I had the perks of, and I still reap those rewards from now because I had built so many relationships.
Yeah,
I'm on so many mailing lists still.
And you were like a lot of people's first in Australia too, right? Like first tour.
Some of these acts, yeah, exactly. So I got a lot of. I still get a lot of promo from a lot of labels because of that, and rightly because of my work as a DJ as well.
Right.
Yeah, so come 2011,
We're getting closer.
basically, 2010 I came over to the Middle East and got a taste of Lebanon, and I was just like, whoa, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And I just
Had you been to the area before?
not to the Middle East. I came to Lebanon, and I was exposed to. Before coming over, I said I want to find out who's doing what over there in Beirut, and I got eventually just reached out because of Facebook,
Right.
at the time, and I connected with what was just like their first or second year at the time was the Beirut Groove Collective,
Right.
and which
Natalie
Shooter.
Yeah.
Natalie
Shout out to
Shooter.
Natalie Shooter.
Natalie.
Yeah.
But Ernesto Shahud, who he was the founder, plus another Rami O. These guys and Jackson Allers were the guys that sort of were doing these events. Natalie I met in 11. In 2010 I didn't know Natalie at this point, but the boys that had founded the parties, this was like their second year. I met them. They were doing these like little kind of get-togethers in Madam Khale area,
Fantastic
which
area.
at the time was dead. There was like 2 bars.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
So I saw it at nothing at the time in 10, but what I did say was I met a lot of MCs then at my short visit that I was there, and I was just so blown away by the passion and what these guys were doing, and it just kind of like for some.
You're like that kid with the Kenwood stereo in the park again.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I kind of just went, you know what, like something's happening here.
Yeah.
And these guys are about to do something. And I believe that there's going to be a scene that's going to start growing here in the region. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I got to for the 8. I came back. I went to Spain. I went to Greece. I went with some label people in Spain, and I started trying to build relationships in Greece as well at the time. And then in 8-9 months later, I decided to come back over, and I thought I'll come to Dubai. It seems like a safer place to be in part of the region, and a more lucrative place to be. And I came back over in August 2011. I met in this house.
Yeah.
This house here, I met Danilo, I met Esserai, Moston, who's Megadon Betamax. I met Ian Yeti, who the founder and label owner.
Why was everybody here?
No, I'll tell you. Ian Yeti was is the founder and still the co-owner of gosh, I can't remember his label.
Shout out Ian.
10,000 yen, which is which was that whole sort of bass movement in the UK, and he was living here at the time, running that label from here, and I also met I met all these boys through Neil Andrew, aka Wrigley Scott, aka Dollarins, aka he's got so many,
aka Al Barsha 95. 95
so
trillion.
And this couch was here then as well.
Shout out to this
couch that probably has
These
more
pillows,
stains than I'm getting too comfortable on.
So at the time, this house was in the Mix Studios, and right here was run by Paz, who'd been here for 8-9 years already.
Why does that sound familiar? In the Mix Studios.
In the Mix also exists in Alcoves.
It's not the same.
It's not the same at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the Mix Studios here was In the Mix Radio online, and this was pre Boiler Room too.
Right.
So he was doing radio, like there was a green. This whole wall was green, and he would project images, so you would see like, you know, it could be car driving or speedboats. It would be people dancing, and the DJ would be in front of it. Right. It was like a green screen behind it. Right. So this was pre boiler room, and this guy was doing them here at this house, and the boys, the guy Neil Andrews said to me, "Come over. You're going to meet all these DJs here. Bring some tunes with you." I hadn't met none of these guys yet. I just got here. The boys from Lebanon told me to come and meet these guys. So I came here. This was like day 5. And I was just about to go to India the day after. And I met in this house. They were like, we're starting this new party. When you come back, you got to come and, you know, check it out. Yeah. So I left. I went and I stayed in touch with them while I was traveling. And I was in India for like a month or so. Came back. And I was bouncing across. I met this guy in Lebanon before, who asked me to. When he said, when you come over, you can start DJing at all these corporate events with me, and I'm really telling every detail as possible here, aren't I? But it's like
this is what we want to know. This is what the world needs to know.
We need the fine details. What color socks were you wearing?
Were you wearing socks at that point in your life?
You probably weren't wearing socks. Do you wear socks? You're wearing socks right now. Now we know this thing.
No, but carry on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I met this guy Peter who was doing a lot of corporate events. Peter was an concert promoter. Like he was this guy in his heyday had brought out people like Nina Simone to Lebanon, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, and he told me some crazy stories about that lady.
I can imagine.
But so he was doing corporate events in the region. He was based in Kuwait at the time, so I was traveling a lot to Kuwait doing like dinners and doing the background music.
Yeah, you're doing like Microsoft
corporate event. Like Surface launch.
Yeah, Surface launch, Excel.
And Kuwait of all places. You can't dance there. You can't there's no
do anything.
Yeah.
So you're just playing background music.
I was curating music for these gala dinners for banking and stuff like that, and and it worked. It was good. And I got paid good money. And I was slowly trying to get more and more DJ work while I was teaching yoga at the time while I was here, and as well. And that went, and I was, I really kind of did the whole, starving artist kind of thing.
Starting over from nothing again.
Starting over, I was.
So you really just started over.
Yeah, I was sleeping. People would put me up in their houses. I remember living in my friend's staircase.
That's a really odd place to sleep.
I made a bed with blow up mattress, and I lived in his near his stairwell for a few months, and then I took off to Greece, where I go every summer while I was still doing that. Then 2012 of September, I moved into this house, and I've been here since.
That's crazy.
And that's where it all really started in this house.
It started here.
Yeah, it started in this apartment.
This is ground
What
zero.
about in Dubai? When did you start branching out into everything?
Well, okay, so these guys, when I came back from India in the fall, almost winter of 2011, these guys had just done their first party at Trilogy.
Oh, man, that's where Pasha was.
Right, so Trilogy was pre.
That is a cursed event. That is a cursed location.
Well, Trilogy had good days.
Of course it did. And I remember that was like, man, we're going to Trilogy. Like,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Done.
So these guys did their first party on the bottom floor there. It was a killer night. They brought over a Jordanian artist, DJ Sotosura, who has been living here on and off as well lately. I'm not sure where he is these days. Amazing hip hop DJ. I actually met him in 2010 in Lebanon with those guys as well. So Sotosura was the first party and first international DJ, and the guys started a party called Dust, and it was everything hip hop, alternative dance music. We would play techno, house, disco, beats, bass, boogie, hip hop. You would hear everything.
Anything you could dance to.
Yeah, it was Dust. That was Dust. Yeah. And then we moved to the music room.
Yeah.
of 2012.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yeah, of January 2012, and that whole year we were there every month. We did a party. We won an award for doing our parties there, and that's when we were like I kid you not, we were one of there was no one really doing DIY parties then.
Yeah.
There was the Deep Crates Cartel started not long after, or around that time as well. Which was
That's Doobie John?
Doobie J came in not long after. This was James Libido.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was doing it here at Casa Latina.
Yeah, I remember.
And that was the boys prior to Dust were all doing an event together called Freshly Laced. And that was pre my time.
Okay.
And the boys went their separate ways and started their own sort of parties. So I came on board to work with Dust. And the boys knew my background as like an agent. I would work with so many artists. They said, you'd be a very good asset to us. Why don't you join us, with us? I was connected with Red Bull straight away with a guy, with the boys from Lebanon.
Were they like just starting here?
Red Bull was already
Red
here.
Bull's always
They've been here.
But the whole RBMA and getting involved in music was new.
Yeah, they didn't do that. For a while.
So 2012, I did our first RBMA event together in February 2012, which was our third Dust party.
Nice.
Which was an RBMA workshop with Benji B, and I had Nicodemus coming out. Nice. So we thought, why don't we combine this and have the two guys? And we did this party together with Nicodemus and Benji B at the music room, and it was a killer night. The boys did this workshop, and it was great. And that was like the early stages of RBMA development in the region.
So even here, you were like straight away doing the alternative DIY.
Yeah.
Dance scene, just like always, right?
That's it.
And how was the crowd? I want to say in those days it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
What was the difference?
It was 6 years ago. 5 years ago in February was when we did.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been more than 5 years now.
It will be 6. It will be
6 years in a few months.
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah. So it kind of feels like yesterday. I mean, 6 years is not really a long time, but a lot of stuff's happened since then.
Yeah, it's
like
a fast-changing place.
Yeah, right? I mean, my move to Dubai was to really give it a crack, like to give my music career more of a crack.
After so long helping other people's.
Yeah, but it was, again, I'm still doing the same kind of thing here, but to come here and because I felt like I could bring what I learnt from all these great people in Australia, the promoters, the records, the radio stations, the way we did things in Australia.
The operations, how you guys
the way we did things in Australia, the way we did things in Sydney, still are my biggest inspirations. Like, I still refer to the DJs that are in Sydney and Melbourne right now, I still refer to them as my inspiration. I hear my music from a lot of these guys that were still breaking grounds back then. They're still doing it now. I'll listen to their mixtapes. I'll listen to their radio shows because they're fucking brilliant. They're on it, man. And
what do you think's the biggest difference between
I don't know. I think because we're so far away in Australia, they work harder to connect with the world. I don't know.
They have something to prove.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, this is not just in DJs and it's in film. Yeah. We've got some of the best film producers, directors, actors.
Australia has some of the best bands out now.
Some of the best
bands right now.
Right, so I mean that's been for a while now. We've had amazing.
But what is it? Do you think it's just that we want to put our stamp in the world?
I think you know what it is, because Australia is only has limited channels to get yourself out there.
Yeah.
And because we're so far away, people think people just are a lot more immersed in their art and their work.
It's more insular, right?
But I'm not going to say they're better than people in Europe, because there's amazing music that comes out from
But
them.
it's just more insular.
But it breeds a lot of amazing artists in different fields. It always has. It has for a long time. And like I said, I mean, I still refer to my peers and people in Australia, even new kids that are coming out on the block right now from Melbourne in particular. Just like, you know, I played a track of this act that is doing sort of like this sort of disco 80s funk kind of vibe called GL,
Right.
and they're connected with Astral People, and I played one of their tracks at Groove on the Grass on Friday, and it was just like, I've never played it on such a big sound system. It just tore the place apart. And I played another artist from Melbourne called Alba, and it's this more subtle kind of housey kind of thing, still amazing on a festival stage. Like, it got everyone grooving, and you know, like, it was just some amazing stuff coming out of Australia still.
What do you think we could learn most from Australia about how we work, how the music industry functions, promotions, events? Like, what is one thing that if you're like, man, if we did this they do there,
what does Dubai need?
we could be...
Look, Australians probably won't admit it, because when you're there, you bitch and moan about the things.
You always do, but that's a human condition.
Yeah, it's a human condition, right? But honestly, I think I was shocked when I moved here, and of the lack of structure, professionalism, even a sense of unity. I mean, people probably in Australia would agree, but there is more of a sense of community in Australia than there is here. It has improved since I've been here, definitely. I mean, Dubai now has, I give it kudos. There's a good, healthy, decent scene now in Dubai. It's not. I mean, it's not like, we're not Berlin. We're not Berlin. We're not Sydney.
There's no distribution channels in Dubai. Is the problem?
That's right. Even from street promotion, you don't have.
There's
that.
no like JJ's. There's no place where you know
Triple
if you
J.
Triple J.
Triple J.
JJJ. There's no Triple J, because like if you, there's nowhere where you know, if I just get into that person's hands, then I'm in the scene.
There's no hierarchy.
There's no hierarchy.
You don't know where you stand, no matter where you are.
So you asked before about FBI, and what FBI does, and they do it well, is they help breed youth in like, they have programs to teach kids how to do shows on the air. Like, you can volunteer to become a radio presenter, and you'll get trained for free. Right.
That's dope.
So, and that's run by sponsorship money. So, the way that whole operation works, you become a subscriber, you pay $10 a month, but they've got, like, you know, a shitload of people sponsoring, and that money goes into running the station, keeping it alive, and they run these programs. Some of these kids are 16, 17. I remember hearing kids at 16 that were brilliant. There was a kid called Harry White at the time. This is 10 years ago now. This guy is amazing. He's probably right now doing all this great work in Australia, and I think we're still friends on Facebook. He had this great way to present on the radio at 16, 17. He was so eloquent, and he was so switched on with the music industry. And he got nurtured. You know, people, that's what FBI did. They would grab kids that they were very good at seeing who was great, you know, like they had potential to become more, you know, and they would nurture them. And some of these kids got into bigger arenas, like onto ABC and doing hosting for TV shows, music TV shows, and writing for concerts, and, you know, like.
Do you think one of the things is that nobody actually wants to invest? Because right now, like, the nurturing thing, I'm thinking that means you need someone who is playing the long game, right? Someone who's like, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to help X, Y, and Z, and I want to make sure you get from here to here, or I want to have that cycle of.
Do they still? I think SAE is still here, right?
SAE is
still
here. So SAE.
But it's not like it's a very lackluster operation, is from what I hear.
Yeah,
from what I hear.
Shout out SAE.
Thanks for joining in.
SAE and there's like a lot of. I think a big thing. I think Dubai, this whole concept is new to I don't know if it would work like it would work.
Yeah, but it's so new though.
But it's so new.
Is the word,
why can't we create a community radio station in Dubai that plays alternative? But the money's not there. I mean, Dance FM. Trying to do that. They're trying to do this sort of thing. But let's face it. I mean, I'm glad Dance FM exists.
Right.
But
it's still kind of catering to the mainstream. It's not DIY.
No, it's not. It's not. As much as they want to pretend that they're so-called underground, they're not.
Yeah.
And I'm not, no disrespect to them, but it is they're just a commercial dance music radio station.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like that's what Dance FM is.
But then do you think we have different
at least we have it. At least we have that.
Yeah.
At least we have
It's
Dance
a good
FM.
precedent for something to be built on top of.
That's right. But they also set a bit of a precedent now of the commercial radio stations are trying to do a similar programming here in Dubai. Like they're playing dance music more often now. Because they realise there is a big market for dance music in this city.
Huge.
Yeah. So, and that's, the house techno thing. And it's slowly now, I was really surprised, disco, when when they think of disco, and it's always been the problem, is when they think disco, they think
Village
ABBA
People.
and Village People and all this, it's not...
And it's like, there's 10 years of that music.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't just those guys.
Yeah. So, disco has a... it is synth-driven, it is techno.
Yeah.
It is...
That's like if you define hip hop as like Basketball by Curtis Blow.
Basically. So, and I'm beginning to see that sound is becoming like what Dust and what we were doing before is now being accepted more. I mean, we were doing it way before. I mean, but our parties only had like 200 people. We never really clocked more than that, unless our biggest events we did. Our biggest event was a Kenny Dope on Tamania Terrace. It's like 350, 400 people, maybe even more, maybe 500. But we had we got a good break, Mostyn and I, because the boys, the original guys, they were only here for 12 months. So Mostyn and I started running Dust by ourselves. So in 2013, we had an opportunity to program Tiger Translate, which is the first Tiger Translate, and it was done in the car park of Media One.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first event in that car park. And we had, it was kind of like what Dust, the programming, what Dust would be like.
Same kind of music, same vibe.
Yeah, we had a guy doing more UK kind of we had UK dance, which was Seiji from Bugs in the Attic, which is that two-step kind of broken beat, new jazz stuff, but also it was the turn of the bass music of UK bass.
Makes sense.
So Seiji is an amazing producer, still very well respected in the industry, and did a lot of stuff and he was part of that elite kind of group. I say elite, not pretentious elite. I mean beat makers of the UK. There's that Pyramid. Him and Zed Bias. These guys were up there. They were part of that whole movement. Anyway, so we had Seiji, and then we had straight up disco. Straight up, we had Pat Mahoney from LCD Sound System, the drummer, and he came for a DJ set.
That's sick.
And he was the headliner. And we had Abri, we had I brought out Zahid Sultan. We did his first ever show in Dubai.
He came recently as well.
Yeah, he's come out many times since then.
Right?
But we did the first show with him.
Nice.
And he did his AV thing at the time of his earlier stuff.
That's his game.
There was 2,000 people there, it's in that car park.
Really
and that was when the street, the art was happening on the walls, and that it set a benchmark. You know, now everyone's doing that. You know, like they're still doing it. I think people we need to move away from. There's nothing wrong with street art at events. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, like it just you know, there's every bloody event now has the same thing: food trucks, hula hoops, and street art.
Yeah. We have graffiti, we have food trucks, and there's a person doing hula hoop.
It's because people are always like, "Oh, work there, it'll work here."
The same thing over here.
Come on, hoops. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you made Dubai cool, and then
I'm responsible. No.
And then you made you made Dubai not cool because they've copied the formula too many times.
I wasn't involved in any of that programming. I was just music. It was always. I've never been. My forte has never been about decorations.
But weren't you a world famous hula hoopist in the late '80s?
No, we just did the. I mean, Dust was always about sound system, disco ball, dark room, and red and blue lights.
Yeah,
that's it.
Everyone enjoy. Yeah,
and just dance sweat your butt off. That was it.
Okay.
We were not about like flowers around the DJ booth.
Yeah.
We weren't none of that. Like. It was
simple,
just,
done.
It was just a very old school way of doing a party. Just get a room, put your sound system in there.
So you didn't
keep
have
the
a dream
lights
catcher
off.
anymore? There wasn't a dream catcher behind the... And finally? How did you have fun then? What did you take a picture with?
No, none of that.
Alright, so then what would you want to see more of? Like just a few more questions before we wrap. Okay. What would you, in this city... Okay, 2018, right? We're starting fresh, and you get to say, all right, this is what I want to.
I want to see a live music venue here in Dubai that can be transformed. This has always been my utopian idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I would love if there's a sheikh out there. Come and speak to me. I will show you.
Shout out to everyone. James Locksmith.
If there is someone out there that wants to develop the best venue in Dubai, like that this city needs for its music and arts culture, I believe that we need a space that can cater for the live and DJ experience. That can fit up to 1,000 people, down to 200. You can manipulate the room.
Yeah.
It still offers its food and beverage, but it's about supporting the alternative arts community in the music, and it will kill it. It would kill it.
Absolutely.
And some kind of permit where people can collaborate on stage.
Yeah.
Like an eternal karaoke,
like that place has to be
license.
exempt.
Yeah.
Truly exempt.
Yeah. Like you're able to have jam sessions there.
Yeah.
We need a jam session.
Because I in my head there's one concept that I always along what you have is marrying live and electronic and allowing people to come on and off.
Yeah, allowing collaboration,
like
live
getting
collaboration.
the guys who we know, okay, they understand it. They understand the music. They understand each other. It's like a modular, fluid set between people, moving through genres, across instruments. Sometimes there's no instrument and it's just a DJ, and it alters that way. But they supplement each other so well. That's a night I would love to.
I think we can't have community without collaboration, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's what's keeping the music community so segmented in Dubai.
So there has to be a lot more
Well, the other thing is support for the youth culture.
Yeah.
And I think because it's the under 21s thing is a bit taboo, but things that actually programs that are nurturing kids rather to help because honestly it all really comes down to the fresh kids. That's why that new concept we're talking about, like I really want to focus on the young beat makers because that when you get that going, that's what's going to make the city grow into a bigger thing. The youth is where it's at.
Because then they'll do that for the newer generation.
Exactly.
And somebody has to do it for them first.
Exactly. So I think that's why I'm very interested in about creating an event space or in a platform that is going to try to help promote.
Because you have the ability to explore.
And because that's the only thing we can do that is affordable to do, other than like trying to create an FBI radio scenario. Unless if we could try to do something like that, it would be amazing. But again, like it is something that somebody or people would need to be fully committed into a long-term operation, because it's not something that, oh, well, you just do this for a couple of years.
Right.
You know, you're going to set up a community.
You have to have the long view.
Well, you
It's
know,
like they do events, they do things like.
Well, here's the thing: we might get that when Spotify comes over.
When and if.
Well, I don't think it's going to happen, Spotify.
You don't think
I
so?
mean, they keep saying yes, and then they keep saying
Not
we
with
don't know
the,
anymore.
Not with their competitors now.
Look, someone's solving some kind of copyright, right? Like the point is, man.
There's a copyright issues here, though. Right?
Yeah, there's mega copyright
Well,
issues.
maybe Angami. Maybe we should approach them and get.
Like there has to be more. Like Angami exists here now, guys. Like there has to be more collaboration with things like that. Angami, shout out.
Shout out Angami.
We met before, and you guys know me. I'm ready to talk again, but that needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, there has to be some kind of system. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be around in Dubai that long to see it, unfortunately.
That was going to be one other thing is where
are you going?
What's happening?
What's
What is the
happening
next 2 years for James Locksmith?
Well, I think the next 2 years, I would still be here, at least another 2 years. I think I want to stick around for 2020.
Yeah.
And
see what that World Expo is like.
Yeah, and try to offer some really cool music services for that period when people are here,
Right.
and be part of that experience and give people that are coming to Dubai a taste of what Dubai
Is
Dubai's
really like.
alternative music scene is, and be part of that. You know, I want to contribute to creating some fun projects for that period, and hopefully I'm involved with other people's events as well, where I can curate, program, I can perform. And of course, in the next 2 years, I'm planning to have my own material out, and which is a long time, something I've wanted to do. But now I'm, I've been, I've met amazing people here in this city that I can sort of co-produce some stuff, and I can learn on the job. You know, I've been learning myself how to do it. Obviously, you know, putting in the hours and the time to become sort of like an engineer and learning the production tools.
It's a whole.
It's a whole
lifetime worth of knowledge.
Exactly. But I'm not. Look, I'm enjoying learning it, and Tariq Omar, who's been amazing.
Shout out, Captain T.
Captain T.
He's very encouraging, and he's also a very good teacher. And I've noticed that in the recent sessions that I've had with him. He's super patient, and he's very encouraging, and he really sort of sees where my strengths are, and where I need focus.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, let's focus on those areas, and that way you can learn more.
Yeah.
Doing what you're good at and where you need to improve, and then we can start, because we want to start a live thing as well. We're going to do our own solo. We're going to help each other with our own solo material.
So it's really about putting out your own stuff at this point.
That's where my focus is now. I want to do that.
I'm dating me right now.
I'm dating me.
Yeah. So I want to do that, and really work on some events that are. I want to move away from a lot of, like, I still want to curate certain things, but I'll be very. I mean, I've always been selective about it, but I want to reduce the
fluff projects.
Well, no, it's not
the
about
day-to-day grind.
Well, yeah, because I kind of want to develop the James Locksmith thing more, and that's where I want to go with it. I'm also thinking of a YouTube channel. Well, I've started working on it, which is me about what I'm doing, my projects, and mostly about telling people how to do stuff in the music industry, from how to promote themselves to doing a contract with a venue.
That's
cool.
Like,
it's really about giving something back of what I've learnt, and developing. I want to do a proper YouTube channel around.
That's
that,
useful, man, because a lot people don't.
It's useful knowledge.
People don't talk about that stuff enough.
No.
Whenever you interview.
Well, I never had the exposure.
On the job.
Everybody learns it on the job.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about it,
No.
man. There's so many fine little details.
It almost feels like
it's a secret.
Yeah, it's like, well, I busted my ass trying to learn it. Why should I teach you? Why should I teach you? You should learn it yourself.
It's a perpetual secret.
Yeah,
and it really
people feel like it's a rite of passage.
It really, but it really slows people's careers down, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
you look. Don't get me wrong. There are so many. And again, I'll go back to Australia. There's so many resources in Australia where you can learn stuff.
Yeah.
To do things, and so I want to be part of that. I'd like to be able to offer information and even try to develop courses as well, try to help people, but to use this to also complement my projects and my own music. Right. I think there's something in it for me for that, and it resonates for me. Like, it makes me feel excited about it. So I think it's something I want to try to work on. Like, I think it gets me really
amped up.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And then to kind of close, what would you do after 2020?
Well,
space. I think space.
I want to explore the absence of sound.
Look, I'm hoping that I've got like a couple of really key events around the world that are running, and I've got the music. I'm DJing. Maybe move to Greece.
Is that the dream?
It's a dream. I think move there. I'm actually I really need to be specific now on where it is that I like, what the bigger picture is going to look like, because I have a lot of ideas, and that's like also a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
I've got far too many, because they're all great.
Yeah.
They're all great. So
I'm a goddamn genius.
Which one are you gonna?
I've got to choose, man. I've got to choose.
There's a fork in the road.
Yeah, I've got to pick which, because they all sound great and on paper as well. But I'm a firm believer that if you've got a vision, whatever it is, and you put the time and effort into it, you can create what it is that you want. Right? With the trials, tribulations, even what it is that you need to change within yourself to make these things happen. Because generally, if things aren't working out for you, there's a big reason that it's something you need to change within yourself to make it happen.
Right.
And I believe that firmly. It's been a proven thing for me. And the more and more I evolve as a person, and I change the things that I can change, and the things that I can change, that I can grow from and become a better version of myself, my career changes with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I've always treated my growth, my personal development, and my work as an art. Yeah. Like it's that I just keep on.
It's inextricably linked.
Yeah. It's connected.
You get what you give in.
Yeah, and all the work that I do with my music and the projects that I work on, they're business related, but it is part of an art piece. Like, it's what I'm creating, envisioning to create like the life that I want. And you just keep on chipping away at it.
Well, that's what I think. I think people talk about big breaks and things like this, but you really create the path day by day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, sometimes you get little breaks.
You get a little push.
You get.
But you were on that path anyway.
You were on the path.
Well, but if you're like, you will get. Sometimes you will jump miles ahead because that's like that what happens. And then sometimes you don't. You could be staying in the same place for a while, and then realize, I need to change something. And if nothing's changing, it's because you haven't changed what it is. It's what they say. I think it was Einstein that said, if you keep repeating the same thing, it's a form of insanity.
Yeah, right.
Expecting change.
Yeah, exactly.
So you keep on changing in order to grow, and so that I've sacrificed some other things in my life from starting a family, it was a choice to choose that this path, but it's not that I don't want to have a family. I think that is going to happen next, at some point. But yeah, I've been.
You've been pretty solely on this path for a while.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do. For me, this is what I've dedicated my life to doing. And I've had amazing experiences, and I think that's the metric that's healthy of measuring success. It's not about finances or anything. It's the experiences that we have, and measuring, because money and whatever is great to have to get us the choices that we want, but
it's just a resource. It's not an outcome.
Yeah, but the metrics of experiences is what you're doing it for. Like my job is about creating experiences for people, and in return I get experiences as well. Of course. So it's that's basically it.
That's it.
That's really a beautiful way.
That was the end, guys.
That's a really beautiful way.
We hope that we created a good experience for you.
Yeah.
See how I tied that one in? And man, that concludes podcast 2. Check out James wherever good music is being played.
Now, hit him up if you're making music, want to do an event, want to do anything in art.
Slide in his DMs.